Geek Tank Radio on 98.1 The Max.
Welcome, everyone. We are the Geek Patrol, and our microphones don't have a stun setting. I'm Joe Thorderson here with my friends Brandon Olmstead and Alan Gilbreth, and our buddy Max over there behind the glass. And Alyssa Diggs will be returning after her 2-week vacation in Philadelphia. So she'll probably come back a different person, I'm sure. So,
well, I mean,
it's bound to influence you. I've heard those people out there are a little different, and so it's like, you know,
she's
a different.
Miami didn't affect her too badly. She'll be fine.
Okay. Anyway, we've got some things to discuss. Brandon and I both went and saw good movies this week. We'll probably chime in on that without heavy spoilers. We're not going to go spoilers, but we want to, you know, when something good happens, we want to celebrate it.
Oh yeah.
Also, now we weren't, you know, it's not enough that everybody went on strike last year. Now they're back. The strikes are back, right?
A strike is back.
Okay.
Or a strike is here.
Video game voice actors are going on strike.
Yeah.
I think this is going to play out a little differently than it did the first time.
Yeah, probably.
But Max, you wanted to mention something before we get to that, right? Because
well, today we celebrate a holiday by the name of Barbie in a Blender Day.
Is that a punk rock band?
No, but it would be a good name for one.
Now, you guys are familiar with this, and I know nothing about this, but this is it sounds terrible. It sounds like an awful thing. But.
Let's go back to 2004.
Okay.
Or rather, yes, a man by the name of Tom Forsyth, a famous photographer, once published a Barbie doll image near or inside a blender.
Yep.
Like in different positions or whatever. His whole mission was to criticize consumer culture and the objectification of women through photos. And so the Mattel company actually sued him over this, claiming copyright infringement. But luckily for Forsyth, he actually won the case and received $1.8 million in compensation.
For what? I mean, he gets paid, so he sells his art, he makes money, and he sues them.
No, they sue
him, and he makes money.
All right.
Were his legal expenses that high that he had to fight?
Have you ever gone up against a corporate entity?
I guess so. Is that what it was, just to get back his legal and the trauma of fighting a big corporation like that? I'm kind of curious about that.
Well, and then the big fight also then drew a great deal of attention to what they were fighting over.
Okay.
So he got a lot of publicity out of, once again, I love to say pick the right fight.
Oh, yeah.
Because if Mattel had left it alone, it would have gone away. No one would remember. Everybody, Brandon and I might obscurely bring the topic up 10 years from now.
But that's only because we have a whole bunch of useless knowledge in our brains.
We are trivia troves of absolutely useless stuff.
Right.
But because Mattel chose to make a big fight out of it,
it now is a holiday.
It is now its own day.
Well, it's just like anything. It's like, the best way to promote art is to add controversy, right? Or to do something
controversy creates cash. I mean, it's a tried and true method.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, too, but this day also the moral of the story is helping others to celebrate the efforts of him, but not only that, but the importance of free artistic expression.
Here's what I object to about the whole thing, Max. This is what rubs me the wrong way.
I didn't expect this to trigger Joe so
No,
badly.
it does. Because here's the point that this is what bugs me. Okay, if you go to an art museum, I will go to Chicago. They have a. It would take you days to go through that museum. They have the modern section. They have the whatever. One of the things I hate is where it says, this is this is a portrait by whoever, and then underneath it tells you what it's supposed to mean. I don't want somebody to tell me what it's supposed to mean. If I see a Barbie in a blender, it's my decision what it means.
Don't
you know what I mean?
The description.
Well, but
it's that easy.
Yeah, but it's like it's telling you how to think. It bugs me.
Well, see, here's the thing. I believe in your own personal interpretation of art.
Okay.
And I can read 100 times what the artist intended to do, whether it be from an art critic or the artist themselves, and I can go, that's not what it means to me, and that's all. It's all good. The only reason anybody knows what this meant has nothing to do with the art display, the photography to begin with. It's because it came out in the court case. Because as soon as somebody's like, well, that's our product, you can't do that. Well, technically he bought it. It's his product. He's not really capitalizing on the name so much as he's giving you grief for capitalizing on it.
All right, so the
but we wouldn't know
paparazzi.
that if he would have just left it alone.
If he was a true artist, he would have said, it means whatever I want it to mean.
Well, let's say the paparazzi are
Mattel,
waiting outside the radio station when we leave.
Yeah.
Because believe it or not, Joe, I know it shocks you, but we might be famous somewhere.
All right. Whatever.
You do have fans, Joe.
We do have fans.
Okay.
So we walk out front. The paparazzi takes a picture of you getting in your truck.
Yeah.
Who owns that picture? It's a picture of you.
Well, depending on who. Yeah, I guess so. I mean,
but did you pay the paparazzi to take that picture?
Well, but isn't it a matter of? I've always thought if they sell it, then I have it. If they just publish it and they make no money on it,
nope.
The paparazzi makes money off every picture they take.
Well, I don't know. That's a good. I'm not a lawyer.
This is something we've learned a lot recently. There was a picture that a paparazzi took of Ariana Grande walking down the street, got her Starbucks in her hand. That's it. She liked the picture so much, she reposted it on her Instagram. He owned the photo and sold it to someone, one of the publications. They all took turns suing her, and she lost.
Now that's interesting. Now that's an interesting
because
moral
she did
thing.
not
like
have,
it's a picture of you.
Despite it being a picture of her, she did not have the right because it isn't a piece of artistic expression.
And is that what they ruled?
The photo belongs to the artist, the photographer, and anyone he licensed through financial gain that photo to.
So
recently, a woman who does Randy Orton's tattoos. Randy Orton's a third-generation wrestler. He's 14-time world champion. He's awesome. She sued the makers of the WWE video games because they didn't license those tattoos for use in the game. That you would think, all right, likeness rights. We've got his likeness rights, but that's her art.
There's just a lot to think about there. So it's like, well, I mean, if you were the photographer that bought the Barbie doll, well, you paid your $10. You bought a Barbie doll. You bought the blender.
Tax on
you
it.
own it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably what the court decided, right? So.
And how many movies with bratty little brothers in it have we seen destroyed Barbies?
Exactly. Or melt them with a magnifying glass outside. Well, if you don't think I'm going home and getting on YouTube and going down the rabbit hole to investigate this, you don't know me very well.
You're listening to Geek Tank Radio on 98.1 The Max. Alan Gilbraith doesn't need Horcruxes. The Geek Patrol is back.
He does need a fireproof vault, however. We have to mention that. And welcome back to...
Take a shot, everybody.
I have one.
And welcome back to Geek Tank Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson here with my friends Brandon Olmstead and Alan Gilbreth and our buddy Max over there behind the glass. And we're going to move along, but it's just interesting to me how you guys can bring up something that is totally random. And I suddenly... It's fascinating. I didn't know that today was Barbie in a blender day. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go look up that court case. It sounds very fascinating. But speaking of things, well, I don't know if this is a court case yet, Brandon, but the video game actors have gone on strike really almost exactly a year after the actors and the writers went on strike last year. But I don't know if this one's going to play out the same, but maybe you could explain it because I feel like there's a different dynamic here. But
there's definitely a different dynamic in the fact that everything, negotiations apparently were going really well, but the one thing that the voice actors wanted that video games were not or the video game producers were not and studios weren't willing to cave on is the AI protections.
Well, now, what is their AI risk?
So they don't want
obviously
don't want you using AI in order to replicate a voice. Understandable. You want
because they could, right? They could copy your voice.
Right. And honestly, if they're going to copy my voice, why?
Well,
I don't have the greatest voice in the world.
You got a good voice for maybe not video games, but
I got a good voice for arguing on radio. I'm not going to be able to give the right grunts and groans for a video game character. It's just not the way it works for me. But we have friends who have done voiceovers for video games. Our friend Brody Scott has done those before, and so we've been connected to the community. We've had many guests who do video game voices as well. This time around, where the Actors Guild, the SAG-AFTRA versus the Producers Guild, that was a massive undertaking because of how much it goes across. But there's always been non-union voice actors. In fact, I think you have to be doing a certain amount of voice acting before you can even get into their group.
Okay.
But I mean, that's the same with actors. The biggest problem here is that right now, as much as we are against AI creating art, AI is it's almost an imperative when it comes to game design.
Oh, okay.
Because you want to be able to create a game that can pivot when you do. Or you don't want, I mean, the patterns are
It
always
almost seems
gonna
like
be
you
there.
can't do it without it these days.
Right.
So, yeah.
Because as soon as you have a game that's like all about patterns, your consumer starts to complain. They want their games to be able to, surprise them. Which is why, it's one of the reasons I think that things like Fortnite and Star Wars Hunters and stuff like that are so popular is because you're playing against people all around the world. You're not so much playing against bots. Because, again, bots are usually, without AI, bots are static. The patterns can be caught, you do it, and then the game becomes easy. I'm a gamer, but I'm a casual gamer. I still want my games to be complex and give me challenges. I don't want to sit back and basically play Sudoku with Mortal Kombat characters.
You just made me think of something. Gosh, you're really making me think today. But okay, video games are worldwide.
Right.
You could be playing with on an online game, and somebody in Italy could be playing.
Yeah.
Well, obviously they have different voice actors for their games, right? Is this only affect the American?
No.
Or is this international? Because
there's a guild, I believe that outside of SAG-AFTRA, SAG of course does represent voice actors, but I can't think of what the name of it is right now. I know I read it in the article, but there's a group that focuses primarily on video game voice acting, and they incorporate people from around the globe.
So I guess I'm just wondering what kind of leverage they have, because I'm not a video gamer, but I mean I've seen enough to go, well, there's a lot more going on than just the voices you hear. So how much leverage do they have to get what they want?
But I honestly think that if the video game producers would just put some sort of system in play where if they do need to replicate something with your voice, that you still get compensated for it. It's not like, I recorded my voice and now it belongs to you. But the worry there
like
is
a
that,
one and done thing. Okay,
right.
Here's when they sold Superman for $110. So yeah.
Right. Like this is one of those situations where I think that there should be something in place to make sure that these voice actors, even if they use their voices, down the line, are still compensated for it. Because there's, while AI, in and of itself is it's a tool, but it can be easily abused. But at the same time, if someone does voiceovers for a cartoon, how many times have we seen cartoons where they've basically lifted lines from another one to replicate a voice of someone who'd passed away?
Oh, yeah. Yep, that's a good point. So.
Okay, well, let's kind of get this in perspective real quick. What's really at stake here?
Okay.
What do you think the average revenue is per gamer?
Oh,
For
I don't know.
each gamer out there, how much do you think? $50? Because that would be billions, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but that's pennies.
Brandon,
on
how
the
much
dollar.
do you think it would be?
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go with what I have. I don't do it anymore, but back when I was a hardcore gamer, there was a good chance that I bought a $50 to $60 game at least 5 or 6 times a year.
So start doing the math on that.
And
you're not even the hardcore
even when I
demographic,
was a hardcore guy, I didn't buy a lot.
Right.
There are people who buy 3 and 4 games in the $60 to $70 range, or if they need that collector's edition, like our buddy Andy Lockley, $100 to $120 per game, and then they're buying a new game at least every 2 months.
Right.
Okay, so on average, $215.20 each.
Right.
For every user. You're looking at $248 billion US dollars, $348 billion worldwide.
Yeah, it's the biggest
This
entertainment
Yeah.
there is.
I
right?
mean, when you everybody's kind of like, well, why does this matter? When you see the dollar amounts,
yeah.
man, does this matter.
And these voice actors, they don't get paid
anywhere near
as
what
much
their
as they probably
acting
should.
brethren do in a movie.
Right.
Okay. Well, the drama continues. And stay tuned here on Geek Tank Radio.
You're listening to Geek Tank Radio on 98.1 The Max. The Geek Patrol is back.
It's treason, then.
And welcome back to Geek Tank Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson here with my friends Brandon Olmstead and Alan Gilbreth and our buddy Max over there behind the glass. And boy, you never know what you're going to learn on this show, or at least I never know what I'm going to learn. I didn't know when we kicked off that I was going to get all sorts of legal lessons. I've been learning all about the legalities of if you're a public figure and somebody photographs you with or without your permission. I don't know. It's just a very interesting dynamic.
Wait until we have an episode where we get to talk about defamation suits for public figures. That's insane.
So we learned about that today, and we're in the middle of a discussion about the video game voice actor strike. And it's funny because when I think of a video game, okay, the voice acting adds to it, but I think there's so much more going on that maybe the video game, the actors don't have a lot of leverage to stand on. But then Alan's pointed out just how much money video games actually generate. It is easily the biggest entertainment field in the world. I mean, by far, it's not even close, which is surprising. You know, people might not think that, but I mean.
Well, and the other thing to add to it, keep in mind, when you look at a major release for a major movie of a casting choice can honestly be the difference between life and death in a movie. Because, if you go back and, everybody loves to do remember when we were casting for this movie? Well, we wanted actor A and we got actor B.
Yeah.
And nobody 30 years later can imagine anybody but actor B playing that role, ever.
Yeah, I thought they wanted Tom Cruise to play Iron Man.
They did?
There was that. Tom Selleck was supposed to be Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Eric Stoltz was supposed to be Marty McFly.
Right.
Yeah.
Doug Ray Scott was supposed to be Wolverine.
Yeah.
So these casting choices mean millions of dollars.
And while you don't think that anybody's going to notice if they change the voice actor in a video game, we have had people start petitions against companies because of the fact that they've changed out the voice actor.
I've never heard of that.
I mean, I couldn't imagine, I'm a big fan of Valve and Portal and everything. I couldn't imagine Stephen Merchant not playing Wheatley in Portal 2 because he just kind of stole the scene. And so there are certain games where, yes, you could maybe the casting's a little bit more throwaway because it's just grunts and uhs, but there are some games where the plots are so profound where you can't imagine another person playing it, fill in the blank.
Right.
And I guess some games have more talking than others too, right? So.
Right. And it's, again, we've seen it in anime dubs all over the place where when somebody gets changed out, if there's not a good reason as to why they know in advance, people freak out. It's like, that's not my Broly.
Yeah.
Why,
dare I say the most feared word in my vocabulary?
Sure.
Batman.
Well, okay.
But
dude, seriously, you're a good example. I look directly, Joe. You're a great example.
Well,
you are a huge fan of every aspect of that genre, and let's face it, Batman is a genre.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
You know immediately which voice you're hearing, who played what, which Joker was it, which game did it come from. You know those actors as well as you know those stories.
Yeah, I guess.
You do, because you bring it up all the time.
No, what I was thinking about is it's not about necessarily even the actor. It's about the writing and Adam West it's a comedy, but that's not Batman.
But let's be honest, Joe. I could read off the plot to an animated Batman movie, and you could tell me if it was a Kevin Conroy movie or not.
Right. Okay, that's a good point. Yeah. So
easily. So
video game
there's a lot
is
at stake here.
Yeah.
I still wonder though. My question is if they go on strike. Okay, well this is a question. What is the video game industry going to do while they're on strike? Do they just keep developing their game, but they don't put the voices in there?
Because there's so, like you were saying, there's so much more than just the voice acting that goes into this. And one of the things that reading up, they're also trying to make sure that the motion capture actors are taken care of because you scan somebody's body type enough times while they're doing the motions for it. We want to make sure those guys get compensated too, and that somebody doesn't just put those prompts into a computer and bam, does it all through AI.
Are they going to win? I mean, I guess when you go on strike, something always settles, right? But
here's
how
the thing.
much do they get? Basically?
I don't think that it's going to be nearly as big a production as the writers and the actors from last year. I feel that they'll go on strike. You won't see giant picket lines probably, but if you do, it's going to be quick. I think that the video game developers know that they need the actors more than the actors need them, because most of those guys can go and get voice work anywhere else.
So you think that? Because I wondered about that. You're saying there's non-union voice actors they could use.
Well, it's true, and NAVA is asking for union and non-union to support one another, but that doesn't mean you're not going to have scabs. But I think that there's enough when it comes to the fan base, people who want to make sure that their next Call of Duty game has the right guy playing Ghost.
You just made me think of something else. So video games are like sequels, you could say. I mean, there's new versions of.
Would you stand up and fight to make sure that Eren Yeager sounded the same?
Well, no offense, but I always listen to the Japanese subtitled one. That's the one I like. But
it doesn't matter.
But the Japanese actor, I want the same guy.
Right.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
Captain Levi's a better thing for Joe.
Yeah. No, you're right. I want those actors to stay the same.
There are certain things you're giving away there, Max.
If Captain Levi had a high, squeaky, annoying voice, he wouldn't. It wouldn't work. So, but I guess what I was going to ask you is, are there many new video games that come out, or mostly are they new versions of games that are already established?
See,
I don't know.
That's the thing is, your big franchises, like your Mario games and your Mortal Kombat, your Call of Duties, stuff like that. While Call of Duty is a shooter online, there are mainstay NPCs. There are characters you play in the single player missions that have to stay consistent.
I guess since these guys are probably not as many household names, I don't know if it's going to get the exposure that the other strike got.
Nobody liked Ronda Rousey as Sonya Blade. I'm just saying that. We didn't. I'm sorry. Nothing against Ronda. Ronda's a badass, but she's not Sonya Blade.
She's not a voice actor. So okay, all right. Well, okay. So that's kind of a downer story. But when we come back, we've got some good movies to talk about.
You're listening to Geek Tank Radio on 98.1 The Max. The Geek Patrol is back.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
Yeah, thanks, Max, for choosing the longest rejoinder in the world. And welcome back to...
He must be mad at you about something.
He doesn't want to talk about whatever we're going to talk about next. And welcome back to Geek Tank Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson here with my friends Brandon Olmstead and Alan Gilbreth and our buddy Max over there behind the glass. And now that we have
behind the glass
60 seconds left for this segment. Now, hey, real quick, I just want to say something. I did see I was very pleasantly surprised with this movie. Fly Me to the Moon, just good fun. Well made, well acted. A lot of history. You learn a little bit about the moon landing and everything like that. There's some of it's obviously they take liberties, but it is a great feel-good movie, and I highly recommend it. It was just good, and cool. Definitely get it out on video. But I was glad I saw it in the theater because it really played well there. Yeah. So, but you had a movie experience, it's more relevant probably to our show.
I had a great movie experience.
Okay.
And I'm going to get into it in just a minute because first I want to hit something we've talked about last week.
Okay.
I have seen The Dead Don't Hurt. I understand now why it's not in theaters.
Is it pretty? That horror. You're talking about the Viggo Mortensen.
It is a very good movie, but it is not something that you go in and watch in a communal setting.
It looks hard to. It looks grisly.
It's worth watching, but it's hard on. You don't want to be in a crowd,
No.
let alone with somebody who's like chomping their popcorn.
Right.
Especially that kind of makes me think of watching the new All Quiet on the Western Front movie. It's a great movie, but it's pretty heavy.
Yeah, it's kind of
yeah,
like going
yeah.
to Schindler's List and
Yeah.
going, okay, give me the popcorn and the whatever. It doesn't really
You know,
work.
this
that
is a
way.
movie
It's
that
like,
you want to watch, and then you
Yeah.
want to have a deep conversation with someone.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, all right.
But
well, maybe
I
that
do
makes sense.
recommend it. It is a good movie.
Okay. Gotcha.
But I did see something as well that is blowing up in theaters right now, blowing up at Comic-Con, blowing up all over the place, and that is Deadpool and Wolverine.
Okay.
And I am going to do everything in my power not to spoil anything for someone who may not have seen it yet, because there are so many surprises. But I will tell you, see it quick, because everything's getting spoiled.
Oh,
not
yeah, I
in
would
this
think.
episode, but you're not going to make it to a casual matinee sometime during the week without getting, having something ruined for you. Joe?
Yeah, I was wondering,
I'm-
could I watch this? Because I know
No.
the Deadpool
No.
movies are usually pretty.
No.
Yeah.
I will say that you could watch this, but you aren't going to appreciate it.
The one thing
For
I
what it
appreciate is that Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, they lean into they do seem like genuine friends. They lean
They have
into
been-
the promotional aspect, and there is something kind of old school and fun about the fact that this is released right around Comic-Con, and they're
Yeah.
going in there and doing all the
Yeah.
typical
There
stuff that
is-
they used to do with superhero
Right,
movies. So.
right, and it feels like something new, even though
Okay.
you know these characters, you've been through this before, and the source material, the comic references, the Easter eggs, everything in this makes you just go, this was put together by guys who loved the non-MCU Marvel movies,
Okay.
and I mean it is a love letter to New Line Cinema and Fox and Universal and all the people who are not MCU films. And I'm going to ruin something right now. I'm going to spoil something in the credits.
Okay.
It's not it's not a post-credit scene in the middle of the credits. It is a full-on love letter to the Fox films.
Okay.
It is showing behind the scenes from Fantastic Four and the X-Men movies. It gives Blade its props. It hits on Daredevil and Elektra and the old Fantastic Four movies, both the ones that are good with Jessica Alba and Michael Chiklis, and the one that is not so good with Michael B. Jordan and Miles Teller.
Ooh, that one sucked.
I
but-
didn't hate it as much as everybody else did.
Right.
But, yeah,
But they
yeah.
they make sure to hit on everything in the. I mean, and
They're giving everybody their
these
respect.
vintage clips, and it's basically Marvel saying thank you, because Kevin Feige has said that Blade and X-Men are the reason why the MCU exists.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
You know,
Good.
And
He's humbling a little bit. Yeah.
But yes, it's vulgar because it's a Deadpool movie. It's violent because it's a Wolverine movie. But there is an underlying story that is very meta when you think about it. And it's because of the fact that Wade's entire purpose in this point is he wants to matter. He wants what he does to matter, which is really funny because the MCU, Kevin Feige has done an amazing job up till Endgame. We're not going to talk about the Marvel shows.
Right.
Some are great, some are horrible. But it was always about what mattered. It's like, Thor: The Dark World, it matters. You've got to watch it. There might be one little clip somewhere down the line of Eccleston's, dark. Oh God, I can't even remember the name of the character he played. I hated Thor: Dark World so
Lofties
bad.
or something. Or,
Anyway,
yeah.
so you get you get all that, but it's it's basically Ryan Reynolds saying these movies mattered. In the long run, whether you liked them or not, these movies genuinely mattered to what you're trying to enjoy now. And so, I mean, you come out of there, and it's like if you get the nuance, it hits you. And I mean, I'm a big nerd. I'm a big Marvel nerd, so the nuance hit me. But even if you don't get it, you're going to have a fun ride. And of course, seeing Logan in the classic, yellow and blue. That's not the only suit you see him in.
It took, 25 years to get him in that
There's literally
suit.
a joke in the movie where Deadpool says, well, that took 20 years.
Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, okay, but is it enough to if you could wave a wand, what would you do next? Because you don't want to just pile on and make a bunch of garbage movies
Well, no,
either. So
no.
what would you do next if you were?
What
gonna
would I do next?
Yeah. Would you just let this
as-
breathe a bit and give us a year or so without any?
Well, we don't have another Marvel film until next year.
Good. Okay,
And
good.
Next February, we get Captain America: Brave New World, and that is the next Marvel film we get. We get
Okay.
Agatha all along between now and then, but that is just going to be a fun Halloween.
That looks
thing.
like a horror show. That
It
actually
is.
looks pretty
It-
good.
It really is.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, well, it's good to have good news. It's good to have good products out there. But we're out of time, you guys. It's time to get out of here. So until next week, we are the Geek Patrol, and I am Joe Thorderson.
I'm Ellen Gilbreth.
I'm Maximilian.
And I am Brandon Olmstead, offering my sincere apologies to Channing Tatum, and you'll understand why.
Oh.